Today, other interesting political news, you have Vivek going viral for noting how the RNC shut down a debate between him and Chris Christie. Now, it's one of those fascinating things where Chris Christie, he is allegedly running for the Republican nominee to become president. The poll numbers and the numbers do not reflect that, and he is very much anti-Trump in terms of his rhetoric and his strategy, which again, it is working in terms of the people who hate Trump. There are some of those folks in the Republican Party, and he's gaining those votes for all these polls. And I don't think there's enough of those people to get the Republican nominee, but maybe he's doing this for other reasons. But nevertheless, that's his political strategy. For him, it is somewhat working because he's getting more traction, I guess, from that regard. Now, granted, I might not agree with darn near anything from Chris Christie, though I do believe in this because, oddly enough, he's standing up for the First Amendment. Now, this is from Chris Christie, and unfortunately, he really doesn't have much of an accent that I can think of in terms of, I know people love me butchering accents just by the comments. I know you love my attempts. So, yeah, I don't really know much of his accent. So, unfortunately, you'll just have to listen to my mundane, some might say, voice. So this is the first tweet from Chris Christie, which is what we're referencing when we talk about why Vivek went viral, was his response to this tweet. Now, from Chris Christie on the good old Twitter, or now called X, which, again, branding, I don't know if that's really a prudent decision, but nevertheless, Chris Christie says, quote, "Voters need more information, not less. Our party needs more debates and in-depth discussions, not less. This is a common sense and bedrock of our republic. When the RNC stops conversations between candidates from happening, that is a real cause for concern. One of the main things that Vivek Ramaswamy and I agree on is the right of the American public to fully hear and understand what each candidate believes, and with as little filter as possible. I appreciate Vivek Ramaswamy's willingness to engage in the conversation with me. It is very disappointing that we are threatened with exclusion from the Miami debate and future debates for trying to have more complete dialogue with each other and the voters. Every campaign was offered the opportunity by Fox News, and they have now effectively banned by the RNC. I am always up for real discussions. It's a shame that the RNC and at Real Donald Trump aren't." Now, Chris Christie, unquote. Now, he actually went viral as well. It's the first time in many weeks, with most of his posts, I believe, getting about maybe 20, 30, 60, and every once in a while I get a couple 100,000, with his top in the past 1 month being the one where he pejoratively, uncreatively come up with a nickname of Donald Duck being Donald Trump. Wait, take that, reverse it. And that got about 500,000. That got 460,000 views. This got 2.1 million views, but it only got about 2,175 likes. Now, in terms of that statement, I wholeheartedly agree. I wish, and again, all this is by ineptitudes or designs of the RNC or the DNC as well, but we always have these rudimentary debates where you get a couple seconds to respond to something, and there's really not much of a visceral debate where they can go back and forth. They always get cut off. You never hear the complete thoughts or ideals. They usually just do the cliche BS lines that we've heard since we were kids. Like, we need to get Americans back to work. It's like the most mundane. Yes, obviously. How would you do that? But no, they have the buzzer. They cannot elaborate at all. Which I wish they could. Ideally, just have everyone go on Joe Rogan for a 4-hour interview or a 5-hour interview, so you can know everything about the candidate. I mean, we have the technology. It's not like we're limited by, oh no, we have to wrap up the show in an hour. People tune in if they want to really know about it. Now, Vivek's response to Chris Christie, he says, quote, last week's RNC debate was a disgrace, and I'm starting to believe that was by design. This is what a brokered and rigged nomination process looks like. I disagree like hell with Chris Christie, but when they asked me to face off with him, I said I'd be a man and do it before the RNC intervened to cut it off. Instead of allowing open dialogue and the airing of ideas to give primary voters a real choice, the establishment would rather cut backroom deals and offer up phony debates, including candidates with no viable path and questions that no voter would ever ask. The establishment has hell-bent on taking down Trump. Now they're hell-bent on propping up their favorite puppets. We won't let them get away with it. It's pathetic that the Super PAC puppet masters have now summoned their favorite establishment puppets to broker a path to defending Trump instead of allowing GOP voters to make a real choice on their own by directly hearing from candidates. Republican voters deserve better than this broken process, unquote. Now, his response got 1.8 million views in the course of a single day. Now, not to brag, but I did get 96 views when I tweeted one time at NICTOPPING for fun tweets or posts. Now, some of the most popular responses include the GOAT, many would call, Elon Musk. Now, Elon says, quote, "Let's have a debate on the X platform. I'm happy to host," unquote. Now, that got 7,862 likes out of 383,000 views. Now, Vivek did respond to that specifically saying, quote, "The RNC won't let the GOP debates do it, but I'd go for it with a smart Democrat who's willing," unquote. And he got 1,944 likes out of 62,000 views. Now, of course, the issue with Twitter right now is, or X, whatever bloody hell you want to call it, you won't be able to see it. Because right now, again, they have the videos, but I don't think their live stream capabilities can do the video yet. They have the pre-recorded videos so you can post on Twitter, but when you had, famously, the mundane, or what's the nice way of saying boring, rudimentary presidential kickoff with DeSantis, where he had his announcement on Twitter, it was just like an old-timey radio, which nostalgia I do appreciate, but you couldn't see him. And the majority of communication is body language. You read any book on communication, that's usually page 1. Well, I guess page 2 or 3 after the credits and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, it's early in the book. And yeah, Elon, they need to get that. I don't know if it's there yet, but they need to focus on making that technology happen. Now, unfortunately, Vivek is right. The RNC won't let them do it, which perhaps could show the corruption of the RNC, as well as the DNC, multi-billion-dollar entities. But what are the other comments saying? Let's see. Mr. Rushker Karlbod said, quote, "Dana asking the candidates to write down who they'd vote off the island was one of the most ridiculous and childish things I've ever seen in a debate. And then there was her bizarre mention of Nikki Haley's husband being in the service after DeSantis talked about his service. We also had Varney mispronouncing names all over the place while Isla asking questions that relate to her personally. All of that, along with them cutting candidates off, made it seem contrived and made it one of the worst moderated debates I've ever seen," unquote. That person got 224 likes out of 7,814 views. And yeah, I agree. They really didn't ask a lot of the important questions that people actually care about. And they, again, just especially I felt bad for the gentleman from North Dakota, Mr. Burgum, who, to his credit, is the first time in months we talk about North Dakota, which is famously, I know them just because of business, being a business nerd. They are the headquarters of Shields, which is one of the best sporting stores out there. Now, he had his mic this constantly pulled, and they barely gave him any screen time as well. So it'll be interesting to see what other comments we got here. Mr. Matthew/Matt Chu said, quote, "Do it anyway and see if they have the balls to cut you off the Miami debate stage. Call their bluff, and they won't follow through, especially if you get conversations with more candidates to happen in the meantime," unquote. It first got 300 likes, 39,000 views. Looks like, I'm trying to see. Someone named Floam said, quote, "Target by design Vivek," unquote. I guess it's on target because it's an emoji of an arrow going into a target. Interesting form of communication preference. Now, that person did get 45 likes out of 13,000 views. Someone named Darth Vivek, which the profile picture looks to be Vivek but with laser eyes. This person says, quote, "Sounds like it's time to flip over the table and run as an independent," unquote. That person got 30 likes out of 1,000 views. Someone by name of, let's see here. somebody named of Yogi, which, ridiculously enough, their profile picture is not of Yogi Bear, which is perhaps the most famous bear that people know. This person said, quote, "The Republican voters deserve better than this broken process. They deserve to be able to hear directly from the candidates and make a real choice about who they want to represent them," unquote. Now, this person got 79 likes out of 15,000 views. Mr. Hans Nelson said, quote, "All of the candidates should boycott the RNC debates together and do a at Joe Rogan instead," unquote. This person got 72 likes out of 4,000 views. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's any contrarians here. Usually there's that one gentleman. I guess someone named Joe got 1 like for just putting pictures of the clown emoji. Let's see. So it looks like overwhelming. I'd say 95% positive. Let's see here. A lot of people saying do debate on Twitter, do on Twitter Spaces or whatever it's called. Let's see here. Keep calling them out. Yeah, it looks like overwhelming support on the Twitter sphere, or the X, whatever you want to call it these days, in terms of the responses that I'm seeing. Now, of course, let's see here. It'll be interesting to see. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, here's one. Mr. High Grow System said, quote, "Okay, yeah, Bernie," unquote. Which, of course, is pejorative because he's using the word Bernie, which is Bernie Sanders. Although he did not get any likes. So, it looks like overwhelming. They are all supporting Vivek. It'll be interesting to see, why is RNC trying to shut down all these constructive debates? Is it by design because they want us to have as little information as possible? Or do they just want the monopoly on the advertising rights when they're hosting all these events? Or both? Look, as Archer might say, little column A, little column B. Let me know in the comments. It'd be fascinating to see and hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to do it in today. I really appreciate your support. Also, if you take the time to click that subscribe button. I know it's ambitious, but we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October, so every one of those clicks especially helps. Also, the critical feedback is also appreciated if you take the time to comment. I always try to take the time, even if it's a day or two late, to read and respond to your comments because I do appreciate the feedback as we try to make the show better and better. Also, lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.